Today's day is May the 9th, 2024, and I am truly blessed and honored to have back with me Dr. Robert Young and Carolyn Mansfield. What we're going to be discussing here today is, shall we say, the limitations of Darkfield microscopy, because we've had a lot of other people out there that are professionally using this technology that are making some assumptions that are unfortunately not based on the correct technological equipment that they should be using. And this is what we wanted to drill down today to show everyone the separation and the difference at where the limitations are and where the positive sides are. So without further ado, Robert and Caroline, welcome to the broadcast.
Oh, thank you. Great to be on your platform again. So,
Thank you. And it's great to see you guys. So,
yeah.
Carolyn, I'll turn it over to you. And I know you've got a slideshow here that you're going to help educate people. For people that don't know, Caroline is a naturopath, a live blood analysis. She works with Darkfield microscopy. She's not a doctor, right? But she has an incredible depth and breadth of background and knowledge. So I'll turn it over to you and let you guys have at it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christopher. Yeah, I just want to go over some slides today that I think people would find quite interesting. And it's really just going over what we can and can't see using Darkfield microscopy. Because as a Darkfield microscopist, for over 25 years, my training has just been what we're looking at in blood. And anything other than that, I haven't had training in them. And most Darkfield microscopists wouldn't have had that training either. So I want to show what product looks like under the microscope for Darkfield microscopy, so people can get an idea of when people are looking at things and making assumptions, it's not necessarily correct, because we can see all sorts of wonderful sparkling moving patterns using Darkfield microscopy. So that's what I just wanted to share with everyone today. So let me just share the screen. Okay, so just looking at blood, for example, which I think a lot of us are familiar with, these hydrogel, what we're calling construction sites, made of polymers, possibly. As a Darkfield microscopist, again, I can't say what they are or aren't made of because I don't have the correct microscope to make that assumption. But there are people out there who have done that, such as Dr. Young, who does have the correct microscope with spectrometry to name substances within structures that we're looking at. So here, what has been shown over the last couple of years, that this is what's been named as a polymer hydrogel construction site. And we can see that we know that they do have a specific charge, a very positive charge. And this causes the cells to become attracted to each other, to agglutinate, to coagulate. And you can see what's happening around these structures in this particular person's blood. Again, here's another example of that. And we also get what we call hydrogel structures. These are quite familiar for people who've been looking at this work recently. And we get the white blood cells trying to degrade these structures. And quite often it's too much for them to deal with, and they can lyse, because we know that these structures are potentially connecting up with the Wi-Fi, and they're signaling out, and this can be affecting the white blood cells. And we know through studies that white blood cell count is coming down when people are in the vicinity of EMFs, over a long period of time. So this would be another reason why. And again, here's another construction site. Whoops. With one of these structures. So losing that there. So I just wanted to show people what we are seeing in the blood and what potentially is what we can and can't see. So this is the only video that's not mine. Somebody sent this to me, and I found this quite interesting, because if I just quickly play this, you will see that this construction site or polymer connected up with one of these structures is actually sucking in red blood cells into its body. And I found that really fascinating because, we know that potentially these structures are using our red blood cells or harvesting them to create their own structures and for their energy. So I would love to know who actually took this video. If anyone's watching this and it was theirs, please reach out to me so I can give you the credit, because I think that was quite an interesting observation by somebody.
Wow.
Then I just wanted to go on to show also what salt looks like under the microscope. So under Darkfield microscopy. So, this is a salt crystal. It is square. And some people may look at this and say, oh, this is nanotech. This is, along those lines. But it's actually a salt crystal. So, and when we're looking at MasterPeace under the microscope, for example, which is full of marine sea plasma, we may see some of these. So again, somebody could make an assumption that this is nanotech, a microchip of some sort, but it's actually just a salt crystal. And looking at MasterPeace under the microscope, for example, this is a large zeolite crystal, but with Darkfield microscopy, it refracts the light. We have a dark background and particles show up bright. And especially with zeolites, it's a very bright crystal under the microscope. So this is just one of the crystals caught next to an air bubble that's sort of propelling it along. But again, somebody may say, oh, this is moving and it's, it's possibly nanotech. But no, this is just a moving particle in the solution. It's a zeolite crystal being pushed by an air bubble, and it's actually quite beautiful to watch. So the other thing I wanted to show you, Christopher, also is, these structures that a lot of people are showing in the blood and how they're affecting the blood and the blood working correctly for us. And when we dry the blood out, for example, I'm not talking about dried blood analysis. This is the sample. This is the same slide left for 24 hours. So the sample's dried out, and you can see that this sort of hydrogel potentially inside the blood, I don't know, I'm just assuming, you can see how it's all dried and it's created certain patterns. So whether somebody will say, oh, that's nanotech growing, or maybe it's just dehydrated blood, we don't know. I don't know, unless I was able to actually analyze the compounds. But it's just an interesting observation that you get these patterns from a dried out blood sample, right, with one of these hydrogel structures. So I just want to show you what happens when I added MasterPeace to this dried out blood sample. So everything became a bit hydrated again with the MasterPeace going in. And let me just play this video. What I did was I was able to take the cover slip off after adding the MasterPeace, and I used a needle to see if I could somehow prod at this structure, because everyone's observing them.
Wow.
And there we go. This hydrogel structure at the tip of the needle was able to be moved.
Wow.
Everything's done backwards to how your brain is working when you're doing things on the microscope. So I kept missing it, but you can see it's actually, It is something.
Wow.
Right.
Have you seen that before, Robert?
Yes, yeah, I've seen a lot of these. This is this structure that she's showing appears to be a malaria type parasite called microfilariae. These were really not seen much, until just recently, and the reason for that is because a lot of the products that are being introduced through the nutraceuticals and pharmaceutical companies are incorporating, at least this is what I identified, and in the Pfizer and the Moderna COVID vaccines, is they had added parasites, specifically identifying Trypanosoma cruzi parasites, and then now the microfilariae parasites that are showing up in the blood of humans. And so this structure appears to be a parasite, microfilariae, a malaria type parasite.
So just from a layman's, if I can just for a second, just for a layman's term, we hear about them able to programming mosquitoes, right? Programming mold that they've done in the past or whatever, right? Are they able to program these parasites?
Well, they can be, I've got them not only moving, but like a boat with barnacles on it, transferring graphene oxide. So these types of parasites can be, a delivery system to move some of the platform material that they're using, the magnetic material of graphene oxide and ferric oxide into various parts of the body. So just like mosquitoes transfecting you, carriers of graphene, this is just another way to move. The primary objective was to move this into various parts of the body for nefarious reasons that I've concluded. There's no reason to putting parasites inside the vials of nutraceuticals or pharmaceuticals. So so these parasites I'm finding in everyone now, malaria type parasites.
That slide that Carolyn showed earlier, that was, or the video with the, looks like it was like literally sucking up all the blood cells. Have you seen that before? Is that part of what these things are programmed to do?
I think, yes, I mean, the capability of them using the available proteins and carbohydrates and blood in general, as was Caroline talking about, as a source for life force energy. I mean, that's not surprising at all. So I'm not shocked by any of this. If you go back to the other slide, Caroline, showing the dried portion there, a lot of this material that you see, these little thin lines, are proteins that I would suggest are part of the clotting factors, factor 7 to factor 13. But these proteins are normal when the blood is drying. It's a coagulation process the body goes into. They're called fibrin monomers. But all this other stuff appears to be synthetic. So the proteins are combined with synthetic material while it's encased this microfilariae parasite that we see here. So as you were poking at it, I'm not sure that it was alive or not, but it's definitely a living organism that shouldn't be found in human blood. And I think you've got some other examples going down your slides. But that's what it appears. It appears as clotting blood, which is a normal process with a malaria type parasite that is now showing up in the blood of those in North America. Of course, this was a sample that was taken in Europe, but it doesn't surprise me because these were included as part of the non-disclosed ingredients in the Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
Please continue, Carolyn. This is
I've been seeing these in everybody, just about everybody I look at over the last couple of years. It's quite familiar now. So I added the MasterPeace, as I said, and what I noticed was that the MasterPeace really attached onto the structure because we can see it light up, which, as I've explained, the crystals of the zeolite light up. So when we're looking at potentially, if it does have elements of graphene in it, which is highly positively charged, then the zeolites would be grabbing hold of this structure. But there's nothing else building around it. The zeolites aren't doing anything else. And again, you can see here, it's with the dried up blood with the potential polymers that were around it. You can see that the MasterPeace has, is in the places where that polymer was. So it's grabbing hold of it. Now, what would happen in the body? This is obviously outside the body. We would hope that it would be deactivating it, from its from what it was, wanting to do with the Wi-Fi, etc., emitting signals and taking in signals. And this was 3 days later. And you can see everything's really dried up now, and there's crystals formed from the marine sea plasma all on it. It's almost like encrusted and encased, and it's just, solid now. And this is the other end of it. So I just thought that was a very interesting experiment to see what would happen to one of these structures under the microscope, and just left it for a few days. The other thing I want to show you is one of these, what we're calling hydrogel structures. When I added the MasterPeace, you can see, it's a long video, so I'm going to speed it up, but you can see it actually kind of dehydrates it or deflates it a bit like a balloon. So let's just have a look, let's get it going. So I've just added the MasterPeace to this slide, and you can see some of the red blood cells around it are just whizzing around. But if I just speed this up, you'll see that this structure, here we go, starts to actually just deflate like a balloon. So that was an interesting observation as well. And as I say, it's just all observational. And potentially because it's, marine sea plasma, I don't know, it's high in salt, and hydrogels are known to hold water. Potentially it dehydrated it. I'm not sure. And I just wanted to show this video as well, because I've got a 365 medical grade nanometer torch, and there's some people online posting that people who've had the shot, when they shine the torch onto the skin of the face, they're glowing orange. You've probably seen that as well. So I thought I'd just see what this structure does, if I can just get the video going. So I shone the torch onto this, and you can see it lights up this orange yellow. I don't know what it means, but it shone up in that color. I don't know if you're aware of that, Dr. Robert.
Well, it definitely has some crystal structures on its membrane that are lighting up, some crystallization there. So I'm not surprised that it doesn't light up.
Yeah. And again, this kind of follows on with the other structure that I found a couple of months ago from the skin. And when that was placed next to, this is an actual dried blood sample, when I breathed on it, you can see it kind of came to life, and the dried blood structure also lit up. I think I've shown this before. And then there seemed to be a transfer of energy at one point, where it'll come along shortly. The energy dispersed from the structure, and then the red blood cells lit up. I'll just speed that up a bit. Here we go. So again, it's all just observational, but all very interesting. How all these structures are somehow interacting with blood in different ways.
And they're not even, the structures aren't even touching in that slide, and yet we saw transference occur. So it shows you that everything is connected, even though it may not visually seem like it's connected, like quantum entanglement, I guess.
Yeah, it's such an interesting observation that I just kept repeating that because I thought maybe it was by accident and I left it a day and it was just doing the same. There was no change. And then I just wanted to show what product looks like under the microscope. So this is another product. This isn't MasterPeace. This is a polycosanol product. And just how beautiful, you know, a product can look. Somebody may say, oh, this is full of nanotech, but actually it's just molecules within a polycosanol product, you know, picking up the light because we're looking at it through Darkfield microscopy. And very active, this product. I've never seen a product so active like this, but that's beautiful to watch. And again, another product I want to show you is this is just a dissolved natural multivitamin compared to an unnatural multivitamin made of synthetic vitamins. There's no color, there's no vibrancy in a synthetic product, but this was a natural food grade product, and you can see how the molecules just beautifully dispersed and all the different color that came out under Darkfield microscopy. Just so your audience gets a flavor of what can and can't be seen and, you know, what can be observed with Darkfield microscopy and what it may mean or may not mean. But I thought that was absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
The
So
colors.
synthetic would have no color then, if it was a synthetic?
I checked I haven't put it on here, but I checked a synthetic multi-nutrients, and there was nothing beautiful about it at all. It was just, yeah, no color. So, and there's one other thing I want to show you in other video is this is a flower remedy. So this is basically dew from a flower. This is what the product is. It's morning dew. And look at the beautiful pattern that created in the background on the slide. So when people say they're looking at something and they say, oh, it's creating all this, you know, nanotech because there's a pattern. In nature, we have patterns that can also form. This also shows that there's a molecule that keeps coming back to check on this molecule that's just static, or at least it appears that way. So almost in this video, it seems like there's a consciousness in a molecule. And you'll see, I'll just play it for a little while. But you can see the definite movement of this molecule moving around the static molecule. And you'll see he comes back again. Keeps coming back to check on this static molecule, and you can see the movements are so precise of what it's doing. And I thought any minute he's going to bump into the molecule, and this is exactly what he did. Like,
he's like, come on, buddy, get going here.
Yeah. So this is pre-COVID, by the way. This is pre-anything before people thought, oh, we're looking at nanotech under the microscope. And it's just showing that in nature, we have molecules. We don't really know. We don't get to see, you know, at this level, what's going on. And, you know, it's like Dr. Bruce Lipton says, a particles a spinning vortex of energy. That energy has a frequency. That frequency has a light, and that light has a color. Yeah, it's a different world. We don't know what we're seeing and what we're not seeing, but that was a really interesting observation that I feel like I caught just there in that moment in time.
Right.
Again, just very quickly, more products under the microscope. This is an organic skincare product, just made of flowers and seashells. And again, this is another product under the microscope. This is a food source product. And that's what it looks like when you're looking down the eyepiece. And then when you look at it under the microscope, it looks like this. And this structure here is sugarcane. molecule of sugarcane in the product. You could say that's nanotech, but it's not. It's a molecule of sugarcane. And this is another flower remedy. And this is some molecule that showed itself, and it's almost like a fairy sitting on a leaf. You know, it's quite beautiful. So we can see all sorts of amazing things under the microscope. And then we can see things that do look a bit nefarious. Now, this is from the capsule of a vitamin D supplement. And I was able to dissolve the capsule, and then all these, we've probably seen this before, these black particles came to the magnet when I dissolved it in some water in a cup. And so I put these black particles into under the microscope and had a look at it, and they were highly magnetized. So, and I'm moving the magnet above the slide, and I'm moving this hand, which is capturing an air bubble. I don't know why it's capturing this air bubble, but it's quite unusual. But, you know, these were highly magnetized particles inside the capsule of the vitamin D supplement. The product range came out of Australia. And just finally, I want to show you also, you know, I did the same experiment for a magnetized capsule from an antibiotic. And when I put that under the microscope, so I'm just moving the magnet above the slide, because underneath there is that little black dot that we saw. I'm moving the magnet, and you can see that highly, again, magnetized substance. The dissolved capsule from the outside of the antibiotic is moving. See, and this is just this up a little bit closer. So the ingredients list in the antibiotic capsule was showing that there was nothing magnetized. It wasn't saying there was anything that should be magnetized in the capsule. So when I put this out to some groups that I belong to, then we're saying, well, possibly it was iron oxide magnetized nanoparticles. There was 2 different magnetized particles in the substance, or potentially the graphene oxide sheets, but it was highly magnetized. But again, I can't say what it is or it isn't, because I don't have that equipment. It's just speculation. So these are what I just wanted to share with your audience, Christopher. If anyone found that interesting, let me just stop share with you now.
Oh, I'm sure they did. I mean, no matter how many times I see it, you guys are always opening up my mind further and further. Robert, from seeing those with the magnet, that's fascinating with the magnet in that. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, as far as the size of that, in order to really see their structures, you need to use some sort of optical, you know, bright field optical scanning or transmission electron microscopy. And in looking at those little particles that Caroline was showing, magnified hundreds of thousands of times, you can actually see their structures. And the structure of the zeolite, this is the structure here behind me, a micrograph I took several months ago. So you can see that there are structures of that. But here again, it's very easy to get confused about whether or not the zeolite is zeolite or graphene, because guess what? The graphene is also hexagonal structure, very similar, but just an opposite polarity. I can show you what that looks like. I think I can, if I've got the ability to share here.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can see if I've got that screen up. 1 second. Okay, let me just take a minute and find that.
Now, Carolyn, you're working in the UK there. Have you, the groups that you're involved with, are they speaking any more of what they're seeing, like with the live blood analysis? Obviously, it's continuing what they're seeing, but are they seeing is there an increase? Is there any discussions like that going on, what they're finding in people?
I think where it's moved on to is that these potential hydrogel structures are actually forming artificial blood within our blood. This is where it's kind of moving. You know, initially it was just we were seeing structures. We thought the hydrogel puddles were just oil on the slide. Then we moved from that, and we were only seeing that in the vaccinated. Then we started to see it in the vaccinated. So it's like it's a continuously changing picture. It doesn't stay static. And then everyone was focused on the hydrogel structures and the other, the long structures. And now it's moved on to what are these structures doing? Actually, let's look at the blood, because potentially the blood's being affected. So it's like a journey we're all on together, trying to work out exactly what's going on.